A dense fog blankets the desolate stretches of Long Island's coastline, waves crashing silently against the shore. Gilgo Beach, once a place of serene sunsets and quiet retreats, hides a chilling history that few dare to speak of. Over decades, a predator walked these sands, invisible to the world, leaving behind lives shattered and families in agony. Today, we journey through the darkness of the Long Island serial killer, a case that has haunted investigators, terrified communities, and gripped the nation for years. Every footprint, every fragment of evidence tells a story of meticulous planning and unrelenting cruelty, and the truth is more horrifying than anyone imagined. The beaches are empty now, but they remember. Shadows cling to the dunes where skeletal remains were discovered, each one a haunting testament to the predator's calculated movements. Investigators have meticulously mapped these sands, connecting decades of disappearances and deaths with forensic precision. The killer's intelligence was matched only by their patience, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, leaving trails that could have been erased by the tides, or perhaps intentionally left to taunt those who sought justice. With every discovery, the public's fascination grew, and yet so did the fear. How many more were lost to these isolated shores? Families of the missing and murdered women have waited years for answers. Candlelit vigils, tear-stained photographs, and countless unanswered questions have defined lives shattered by uncertainty. But today, through relentless investigation and breakthroughs in DNA and forensic science, we piece together the story that eluded authorities for decades. This is not just a story of horror. It is a story of perseverance, resilience, and the human will to seek justice, no matter how long it takes. As we unravel the layers of darkness, remember, every shadow on this beach could hold a secret, and every secret has a story. The investigation began like any other, with small clues buried beneath the sands, almost invisible to the untrained eye. Footprints, fragments of clothing, and discarded personal items told the tale of a predator who moved with deliberate care. Investigators combed the beach tirelessly, scanning every inch of sand and scrubland, piecing together the movements of someone who had avoided capture for decades. The meticulous nature of the crime suggested not impulsive violence, but a calculated and intelligent mind, leaving the public both horrified and fascinated. Every discovery reopened wounds for families who had waited years, their hope oscillating with each new revelation. As evidence mounted, the scale of the killer's actions became apparent. Skeletal remains and forensic traces connected cases that had once seemed unrelated, revealing a horrifying pattern of abductions, concealment, and manipulation. The isolation of the beaches allowed the killer to operate with impunity, exploiting both nature and human inattention. Each new identification of a victim brought relief to grieving families, but it also highlighted the inefficiency of prior systems that failed to protect the vulnerable. Media coverage began to amplify the story, drawing national attention and increasing the pressure on law enforcement to finally solve a case that had haunted Long Island for decades. Yet, for the detectives on the ground, the emotional toll was immense. Witnessing the remnants of human life scattered across these sands left permanent scars, forcing investigators to navigate the delicate balance between professional detachment and human empathy. They spent long nights reconstructing timelines, studying patterns and analyzing evidence that had remained untouched for years. Every clue, every fragment became a piece of the puzzle, slowly revealing the cold logic of a killer who had expertly concealed their identity. The relentless pursuit of justice became not just a duty but an obsession, a race against time to ensure that the predator's shadow would finally be lifted. Families became the heartbeat of the investigation, their determination fueling both media coverage and investigative focus. Candlelight vigils along the shoreline, photographs of missing women pinned to poles, and impassioned appeals to authorities reminded the world that these were not faceless victims. The public's attention, sometimes intrusive, often helped keep leads alive and encouraged tip-offs that might otherwise have been overlooked. Each story shared brought humanity to a case that risked being reduced to bones and numbers, underscoring the profound tragedy that had played out on these beaches for decades. Technological advances revolutionized the investigation. DNA profiling, once rudimentary, now allowed investigators to link remains across years, connecting cases that had seemed isolated. Satellite imagery, cell phone records, and digital mapping revealed patterns invisible to earlier generations of detectives. With each new tool, The killer's methods were scrutinized and understood, uncovering the precise planning behind each abduction. It became painfully clear that the perpetrator had studied not only the victims, but also law enforcement tactics, using knowledge of investigative procedures to avoid detection. The sophistication was chilling, demonstrating both patience and terrifying intelligence. The community watched and waited as investigators worked, grappling with their own fear and curiosity. The beaches, which once symbolized peace, had become a landscape of horror and memory, haunted by those lost. Locals, families, and even visitors felt the tension, aware that a predator had stalked these sands for years, unseen but ever present. The interplay of fear, fascination, and the painstaking pursuit of justice created a narrative that gripped the nation. Each step forward was a victory, yet every discovery reminded all involved of the immense cost of prolonged evil and the fragility of safety in an unpredictable world. Forensic breakthroughs brought clarity, illuminating patterns that had remained hidden for decades. Skeletal remains were meticulously examined, personal items cataloged, and crime scene markers carefully placed, connecting dots across time and space. The killer's intelligence became increasingly evident, not just in the abductions themselves, but in the careful concealment and strategic placement of remains. Each piece of evidence told a story of planning, patience, and meticulous execution, revealing a mind capable of cold calculation and long-term foresight. The investigation became a delicate dance between uncovering truth and preserving the fragile thread of justice that had been decades in the making. Investigators faced the enormous challenge of balancing procedural rigor with the emotional weight of their work. Each discovery meant confronting human tragedy on a scale that was almost unimaginable. Families awaited answers, and detectives were acutely aware that each piece of evidence was not merely a clue, but a fragment of someone's life, stolen and discarded. The relentless focus on the small details, sand patterns, fragments of clothing, biological evidence, demonstrated the painstaking work required to reconstruct lives lost to violence. Slowly, a coherent narrative emerged, one that traced the killer's meticulous planning and methodical movement across the beaches. As the case gained national attention, media and public fascination surged. Every forensic breakthrough was dissected and discussed, bringing both support and scrutiny to the investigative teams. The community of Long Island felt both fear and curiosity, aware that their quiet beaches had become a theater of horror for decades. Yet in this darkness, a flicker of hope emerged. Persistence, technology, and human determination were finally intersecting to reveal the truth. The sands of Gilgo Beach, once silent witnesses, were beginning to tell their story, piece by piece, unmasking the calculated terror that had remained hidden for far too long. Even after the arrest, the investigation continued to uncover hidden truths. Skeletal remains and evidence still pointed to victims who had not yet been identified, suggesting a broader scope of crimes than previously imagined. Each discovery revealed a level of calculation that seemed almost impossible, a chilling testament to the killer's meticulousness. Forensic experts revisited old evidence, connecting dots across decades and uncovering details invisible to earlier investigators. The scale of the operation highlighted not only the killer's cunning, but also the critical importance of patience and diligence in criminal investigation. Families, still grappling with grief, found both solace and sorrow in each revelation. Candlelight vigils, photographs, and public memorials kept the memory of victims alive while offering a measure of collective support. Counseling and advocacy programs became lifelines, helping relatives process trauma that spanned decades. Investigators worked closely with families, balancing procedural rigor with empathy, understanding that every breakthrough carried both hope and emotional weight. The intersection of justice and human emotion created a story as much about resilience as it was about crime. Meanwhile, the public remained riveted. True crime documentaries, podcasts, and news reports dissected the investigation, offering insight into both the killer's psychology and the painstaking work of law enforcement. Social media amplified discussion, speculation, and awareness, keeping pressure on authorities and reinforcing the cultural importance of justice. The case had transcended its local origins, becoming a national story of horror, perseverance, and the unrelenting pursuit of truth. Gilgo Beach had become both a cautionary tale and a symbol of hope, illustrating the triumph of determination over decades of darkness. Forensic technology continued to illuminate previously hidden connections. DNA sequencing, cell phone mapping, and digital analysis allowed investigators to reconstruct events with unprecedented accuracy. Fragments of clothing, personal belongings, and skeletal remains were examined and catalogued, revealing patterns that spanned years and miles. The meticulous planning of the killer was increasingly clear, highlighting not only intelligence but also patience and methodical precision. Investigators pieced together movements, timelines, and disposal sites, gradually revealing the calculated cruelty of a predator who had eluded justice for decades. Communities and families remained deeply impacted. Emotional scars persisted alongside the relief of accountability. Counseling, support networks, and advocacy initiatives became critical in addressing decades of trauma. Public attention, while sometimes intrusive, also ensured that victims were remembered and that lessons from the case were amplified. Every recovered clue, every forensic breakthrough, was both a testament to human perseverance and a reminder of the fragility of life in the face of meticulous evil. Media coverage continued to shape the narrative. Documentaries, podcasts, and investigative reports highlighted both the victims' lives and the complexity of the investigation. Public fascination, combined with careful investigative reporting, brought attention to systemic vulnerabilities that allowed the killer to operate undetected. The arrest in 2023 was a turning point, but the broader story remained one of resilience, scientific innovation, and the enduring human drive to confront and illuminate darkness. Gilgo Beach, long a silent witness, was finally telling its story. The behavioral profile of the killer revealed terrifying precision. Victim selection, timing, and disposal patterns all indicated someone highly organized, emotionally detached, and deeply calculating. Profilers and investigators worked tirelessly to anticipate potential actions and uncover hidden victims. The analysis revealed not only the killer's intelligence, but also a keen understanding of human behavior and law enforcement procedures. Every piece of evidence, from skeletal fragments to discarded items, helped complete the picture of a predator who had mastered invisibility. Families remained central to the story. Their advocacy, persistence, and courage ensured the case remained visible and pressing. Vigils, interviews, and public appeals humanized the victims, reminding investigators and the public alike that each number in the case represented a life tragically stolen. Media coverage, while sensational at times, kept attention on the victims' stories and reinforced the urgency of completing the investigation. The investigation also highlighted systemic lessons. Cross-agency collaboration, technological advancement, and forensic diligence were critical in piecing together decades of evidence. The arrest and ongoing investigation demonstrated that persistence, innovation, and public engagement could ultimately confront even the most elusive predators. Gilgo Beach, once a landscape of mystery and fear, now embodied both tragedy and the resilience of those who refused to allow darkness to remain unchallenged. Even after the arrest, investigators continued to uncover hidden victims and new evidence. Advanced forensic tools allowed previously overlooked remains and personal effects to be identified, shedding light on the true scope of the crimes. Each discovery reinforced the calculated nature of the killer, revealing careful planning, patience, and an ability to evade detection for decades. Analysts traced patterns through geography, timing, and victim profiles, painting a comprehensive picture of a predator operating with precision. Families and communities continued grappling with the emotional aftermath. Public attention, counseling support, and advocacy networks helped them navigate a complex landscape of grief, relief, and enduring trauma. Each identification of a victim brought both closure and renewed sorrow, as loved ones confronted the reality of lives lost too soon. Media coverage amplified both fascination and awareness. Podcasts, documentaries, and news features analyzed the case in depth, highlighting systemic gaps, investigative triumphs, and the enduring human cost of the crimes. Gilgo Beach, long a silent witness, became a symbol of the intersection of terror and resilience, of human loss and the relentless pursuit of justice. As investigators pieced together the final elements of the case, the sheer scale of the killer's planning became undeniable. Multiple decades of abductions, calculated concealment, and exploitation of societal invisibility emerged in forensic reconstructions. The killer's intelligence and patience left investigators awed and horrified, highlighting how carefully they had manipulated environments, victims, and even law enforcement procedures. Each step forward revealed more of the meticulous methodology behind a decades-long reign of terror. Families reflected on years of uncertainty and grief, now tempered with cautious hope. Candlelight vigils, shared memories, and media attention kept the victims' stories alive, providing a framework for collective remembrance and emotional healing. Support systems and advocacy networks remained essential, helping communities cope with trauma that had been decades in the making. The case's societal impact extended beyond Long Island. It became a national example of investigative perseverance, forensic innovation, and the critical need for collaboration across agencies. Media coverage amplified lessons learned, ensuring that the story of the victims and the pursuit of justice would resonate far beyond the beaches where terror had once walked silently. Gilgo Beach had become both a site of tragedy and a testament to resilience, courage, and the unrelenting quest for truth. Even after the arrest, the haunting details of the Long Island serial killer continued to surface, revealing the meticulous scope of the crimes. Investigators pieced together decades of evidence, uncovering hidden victims and carefully concealed remains. Each new discovery reinforced the calculated intelligence and patience of the perpetrator, highlighting both the horror of the past and the triumph of modern forensic science and relentless investigation. Gilgo Beach, long shrouded in fear, slowly revealed its story through evidence, memory, and the perseverance of those who refused to be silenced. Families faced a complicated emotional landscape. Relief over accountability mingled with grief for lives irreversibly lost. Counseling programs, support networks, and advocacy initiatives helped navigate trauma, while media coverage kept the victims' stories alive. Every recovered clue became a thread connecting the past to the present, offering closure to some while emphasizing the human cost of decades-long evil. The arrest, while monumental, could not erase loss, but it allowed the narrative to shift toward justice, remembrance, and societal awareness. This case serves as both a cautionary tale and a story of resilience. It demonstrates the power of persistence, collaboration, and technological innovation in confronting darkness, showing that even the most methodical predators can eventually be unmasked. The beaches of Long Island, forever changed, now stand as a symbol of both tragedy and hope, teaching the enduring lesson that justice, no matter how delayed, is achievable. If you found this story compelling, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and join us as we uncover more chilling mysteries and true crime cases. Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Your perspective could shed new light on stories that continue to haunt us.